I like to listen to people that have had to go through the most trials. So that way I can learn from their mistakes going forward, as opposed to no mistakes and being like, but I thought it was supposed to go this way. And he's like, oh, well, I don't know what to tell you about that. Sorry, bro.
You are now listening to the Going North podcast, where you'll receive tips and techniques to advance yourself. I'm your host, Dom Brightman, and every week we're going to be hearing from an author who's going to share their expertise to help you charge forward in life. On a quick side note, be sure to check out Going North the book. It's available in ebook, audio, as well as paperback form for those who love to read a traditional book. Now let's get on with the show. Oh yeah, and today on the Going North podcast, we're coming at you once again, coast to coast with the host-to-host special, baby. And you're probably wondering who this host of a wonderful podcast you got today, Dom. Well, this wonderful guy right here, he is the founder of New Inceptions, baby. Not old Inceptions, not ancient Inceptions, but New Inceptions, where this guy helps creators and solopreneurs do meaningful work for themselves and their clients around the world through the internet. Thanks, Al Gore.
Right.
And while most business coaches and consultants work strictly in the business arena with marketing, product development, sales, and etc., he starts from the foundation, baby, and works his way up. And this guy has a lot of talent, baby, because he has a lot of training and coaching time that's devoted to helping creators get their businesses started online in a way that is simple yet up to today's online business standard. And you got to be wondering, like, who is this guy right here? Well, actually, you're probably not wondering. It's the one, the only J.C. Preston, the Entrepreneur Whisperer. How are you today, sir?
Great. I was expecting some sort of like a party horn after that. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you for that introduction, man. How you doing?
Doing fabulous, man. Doing fabulous. Yeah, man. Connected, I think it was, March this year?
Yeah. We've been about a while like that. Sounds about right. Yeah. Almost a year, man.
What the heck, man? It's November, man. What the
heck? Well, you're telling me, dude. It was just like, I go for walks on a daily basis. It's one of my usual habits. And, like, I'll tell you, it just like, why is it cold out? I was walking the dog yesterday, and why is it cold out? And it's like, oh, it's November. Holy crap. And it's like, anymore, especially when you start getting, get used to planning and executing as much as you do, summers fly by, man, for sure.
Oh, man. It flew by indeed. Flew like a freaking Concorde jet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, they don't get much shorter, or they don't get any longer. Sorry, as you get older. So it's unfortunate. But
darn wiener dogs, always staying so long and whatnot. Well, enough of my bad stand-up. So what led to you being to where you currently are, man? I mean, the Entrepreneur Whisperer, man, that's like two words I never heard together, man.
Well, here's the thing, and I've seen this numerous times. For one, you think of when you're going to school, and I'm going to write a book about this sometime in the future, but, we're all, those of us who are successful up to our 20s, quote unquote, usually the stereotype that what that looks like is doing well in school and getting good grades and, living to a certain standard that is acceptable by the world, right?
Right.
And the problem with that is that when you look at how things used to be done up through the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the world has changed quite a bit since then, since, we've had this internet boom and information industry change as much as we have. And, the thing is that you still have all these people that are set expecting a certain outcome for the efforts that they put into going through that early early obstacle course of called formal education. And the thing is that as I was going through there, and I spent a long time at Purdue. I was there for 9.5 years. The thing is that as I was starting to teach in grad school, and this is really where it kind of started picking up, because I'd always heard that there were people that had been going to school that didn't really know why they were there. But when I was in grad school, it really started to hit, because there were people that I was teaching as a graduate instructor that they're basically like, yeah, the reason I'm at Purdue is because my parents told me to go. And the reason I have this major is because my uncle's really has always been this. And, I'm like, really? So you don't know. And like what you want to do, and you don't have any mentors in your life, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, nope. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So as I'm there getting my master's in organizational leadership, my focus was in entrepreneurship, believe it or not. I'm thinking it's like there's a lot of need for not only to help people realize what they're supposed to do in the world, but really how to go about doing that. And obviously one of the things that we know is that entrepreneurs, while it's hard, have the most freedom when it comes to, a successful career, right? So that's why I kind of went down that path by going and helping young entrepreneurs at the time, coaching them and getting them up to speed. Realized that wasn't necessarily while it was meaningful work for me, it wasn't the most lucrative. And so that's why I started moving up into companies that had been existing for a few years, but, maybe the owner of the company started it because there was a need for it, like maybe landscaping or something like that. And then they're like, yeah, and this is getting old really quick. I'm like, okay, well, we need to figure out what your foundation is, and then we can see if landscaping or running a restaurant or something like that is the best option for you. So there you go.
9 years at the wonderful Purdue University, baby. Not getting chicken, but getting a degree in organizational leadership, baby. That is an amazing thing.
Well, and I gotta tell you, I had an undergrad of electrical engineering, and that took me 6 years. And the reason I took so long, and I'm not by any means promoting that you need to go to school for that long. No, I'm not really proud of myself of being there. But, there was a movie in the early 2000s called Van Wilder, and I kind of got that nickname the longer I was there. Not necessarily because I was I was good at the whole party thing, but just because of how old man I was. And, it's just, the reason I didn't necessarily worry about it so much is that I was actually toying with the idea at the time of becoming a professor. So I was just like, well, if I'm going to become a professor, I'm going to be here the rest of my life anyway. So there you go.
Well, you're now entrepreneurial professor now, right?
Yeah. And, about to get some classes started here before too long here locally for some nonprofits, which interestingly should run themselves like startups, especially when they're starting up.
And then they'll start all the way up and go north, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Woo!
So,
well, awesome indeed. So not only getting that master's and being an engineer and one that speaks very well, you also became a certified John Maxwell team coach. So how does it feel, man?
Oh, well, feels great. And the long and short of that is that, John, as I was going through my master's degree, had learned about John and from different people. His books were on some of my professors at the time, their shelves. And then as I was going to business conferences, some Amway and some elsewhere, I heard people talking about him. And when I was in Amway, he was actually on the stage. I'm like, this guy really knows his crap. And so obviously it was a no-brainer for me to kind of use that as a capstone, that certification as a capstone to, really just kind of put a stamp of, there you go. This is something that I endorse and can help you guys with as well. So just another, tool on the belt there. So, yeah.
Oh, there you go, the utility belt. So we're basically speaking to the entrepreneurial Batman, right?
That's right. Never know what tool you're going to need. Sometimes, and I talked to someone it's been a while since I've had her on the show, but that's the thing, is that the more tools that you have on your tool belt, the more you're going to be able to help people. And while you might specifically focus on a niche, you never know what issues that niche is going to have. You know what I'm saying? So maybe every once in a while you might use this particular tool, but then sometimes you're never going to touch it. So yeah, it's a good thing and good investment to have. It's built my network, and any of those official coaching, if someone is going into coaching, any of those official coaching programs that they have out there, be it John Maxwell's, Brenda Bouchard's, I think Les Brown does one. Any of those different avenues will definitely expand your network, and if they're a good program, they'll support you as you grow things.
That's right, baby. Got to grow things and make that big old forest.
That's right. Of green.
Yes, that's right. Making the vegans happy, baby. Keeping the bank account happy, since bank accounts are kind of vegan.
True. Yeah.
Woo! So you mentioned a lot of books on the professor's desk. If you're to name probably your top 3 books that have really inspired you, what would they be?
First one, 2001, had the opportunity to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad before I knew of any other book out there. So that's kind of my go-to one that I recommend. Just off the top of my head, I would say Meaningful Work by Sean Ashkenazi. That one came out last year. That one's really good. And he talks about how he used to be a high-flying, even on TV lawyer, and like True TV or something like that. And he was well known nationally, and he gave that up to start a chocolate factory, not a chocolate factory, a chocolate business. Oh. we're not talking about, we're Willy Wonka here. Wow.
Wait a second. Huh?
Yeah, no, but he makes chocolate, so it might as well be a factory. But the thing is that he does direct trade with the different countries that source him the beans to be able to produce what he produces. And not only that, but he helps those communities actually improve by helping with the education, helping with the infrastructure and all these different things. So really cool, and he's really fulfilled. And if he ever wanted to expand his business, he's thought about it, but it was just something that wasn't quite the right time for, and he doesn't know if it's ever going to be. Another one that I would say, and this is a couple-year-old one, there's a really popular business podcaster by the name of Pat Flynn, and Pat has wrote a couple of books. I think he's working on his third one now. I was just noticing that through his tweets yesterday, and I don't generally surf through tweets like people used to do, but I was just like, let's just see what he's up to. And yeah, he's working on his third. But a second one was called Will It Fly, and really interesting book. and the fact that he talks about a lot of the stuff that I, help people with, figuring out their passions, figuring out their purpose, figuring out the process, the 3 Ps. And then from that kind of helps you design and work on a early prototype of what a business might look like, and then actually move it to fruition. And in a book format, it's probably one of the best ones that I've seen be able to do that. Usually you see that sort of stuff through video, but he did a really outstanding job on that. And yeah, he's definitely one of the realest online business gurus out there. I've watched him ever since about 2009, 2010, when he was just first starting his podcast, to grow to where he's at today. And if anybody ever has any crap on him, which some people do, believe it or not, yeah, it's unwarranted. So that would be my third book for sure.
Awesome list of books, especially the last two, and probably need to pick up those myself. And that's interesting, the 3 Ps. That's really awesome.
Yeah. I was recently listening to another podcast. I think it was, it was either Lewis Howes or Unmistakably Creative, or maybe it was Jordan's. But the guest on there was talking about the simple fact that passion is something that, it might have even been Tim Ferriss, I don't know. They all kind of start modeling or gluing together in your mind eventually. But yeah, she was talking about how, as she was growing up, she had to go through this painful background as a kid, and she eventually found that she liked educating, but that was kind of like there was a little bit of a very indirectional way of going through that, and then she comes back and starts doing it like worldwide, and then as she's teaching around the world, she realizes this other problem, comes back to that, and it's through her journey and really kind of going back to where she started that she was able to find her passion, and then she helps others do the same thing and realize that, while it might seem like failures at the time or bad experiences at the time, they're actually helping you be a better aid to other people.
Yeah, you are right about that, man. It's kind of amazing how that happens. It's like a trowel can be like really just a gift wrapped in some paper full of spikes. It's right. Really amazing.
Yeah. And the thing is that so many of us just have things that we try to cover up, or we're kind of worried about, other people finding out. And, I think the best thought leaders and the best leaders in general use those experiences to actually relate better with those that are following them.
That's true too, because it's like time is basically out for perfection, really.
Yeah. Well, and the question is, would you rather listen to someone that has fruit on the tree but had this kind of a bad background, or a perfect professor, which, by the way, the education system's broken, but that's a whole nother podcast. Would you rather listen to a professor who's never been out in the world, in the industry, and teaches about it like, he knows it like the back of his hand in school? You tell me. So even though he might have that perfect background, he might have what seems like a pedigree to know what he's talking about. I like to listen to people that have had to go through the most trials, so that way I can learn from their mistakes going forward, as opposed to no mistakes and being like, but I thought it was supposed to go this way. And he's like, oh, well, I don't know what to tell you about that. Sorry, bro. Thank you.
Amen to that. And speaking of trials, I'm pretty sure you had quite a few to get to where you currently are. So mind sharing one or two of the trials you may have had to overcome that taught you a lesson?
Well, yeah. So going back to that whole thing that I started the conversation with, dude, I always wanted to be in college ever since I was like in third grade or so. I always knew what my major was going to be, electrical engineering. And once I actually got there, I was just like, this sucks. Through a few internships, realized that I had no interest in being behind a desk all day. And even though I like designing, I mean, I just like, that wasn't really the designing that I actually enjoyed. I like problem solving, so engineering kind of felt like a match at that point. But again, as I got into it, wasn't my thing. So as I was finishing that, I got a minor in that organizational leadership, and that's why I ended up getting doing that as my master's. And kind of did a 180 there, not working with people to having to be in charge of people as my studies. And I was like, and that's part of the reason why I actually focus on entrepreneurship, is because I want to work with people that have all these ideas. Maybe there isn't that much money there, but even then I was thinking about having meaning behind what people were doing, right? As opposed to, just doing whatever the world tells you to do. And so as I went down that path, and again, 9.5 years to get out, I don't recommend that to anybody unless you're going for a doctorate, which I was not. Well, I was, but I didn't realize that it was going to take me that long. But the main thing that I got from that is that, and this is one of the reasons why I like Mike Rowe as much as I do, is that formal education isn't for everybody. I mean, you might be good at school, but if you have a passion on working on cars, which my mechanic is, he loves working on cars. I mean, it's his hobby. He's actually licensed as a carpenter and can be a really good, he can do that very well, but he's like, no, I just like working on cars and putting them together, and they're like 3D puzzles to me, man. And I'm like, hey, man, that's awesome. He's done a lot of modifications around town as well. He used to have his own shop, so really cool dude. But when I was going through school, that version of me would have looked down on people like him, would have looked down on people that just didn't have the education. And as someone that's gone through all that education and then come out and been like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. People that have it figured out that by that point in their lives, what they do want to do, those are the people that I like to hang out with and really just, engage with on a regular basis. So yeah, formal education, not for everybody. And if you pick up a trade from, someone that you respect and or admire as you're growing up, and you like doing that, then don't worry about going to school, man. Don't let the world tell you what you need to do.
That's right, baby. When the world tells you to get that tuxedo known as a formal education, you don't always have to do it. Sometimes you have to go off the rack and get yourself a nice, clean suit.
That's right.
Oh yeah, man. That is so true nowadays. What you said earlier about the professor as basically the black belt in knowledge of reading 5,000 books about business and everything, as opposed to the person has actual fruit on the tree. And it's like, yeah, man, it's always better to learn from someone who's actually done it or is currently doing it, because they actually got the battle tested knowledge and they actually know what's going on. They kind of keep their ear on the streets per se, as opposed to just being in this giant castle protected by a moat.
Right. Well, and I'm even toying with the idea that now that I've been out of school for almost 10 years at this point, I've learned a lot. I've been with several startups, and the thing is what I've learned is stuff that I'm pretty sure that your normal academic wouldn't necessarily know. So I'm toying with the idea of maybe going to some right-leaning school, which are hard to find these days, to eventually get my PhD. So that way I can go back into the education field and be like, you guys are all wrong. Let's focus on something that actually works, sort of thing. Which actually, one of the guys that I work with right now, his name is Dr. Ping Nang Chi, and he's already starting a a school for troubled youth, I guess you could say. People that are just not necessarily like inner city kids, but kids that don't necessarily know, they don't fit into the stereotype as they're going through elementary or middle school. And so he brings these kids to his classroom, which is in an old public school building here in Indianapolis, IPS. And so he actually has that the education feeling to it, but he's set it up completely different. And he's doing pretty well with that. At least I know that he's funded at least through this year, but he plans to expand it and work in different neighborhoods throughout the city, and then I'm sure that he'll eventually want to go national with it. So, but it's really exciting to be able to see him go from just having an idea to actually finding a room, getting students in there, and then doing as well as he has with it. So, yep.
That's awesome. So do you see yourself one day possibly having a school of your own, maybe along the lines like maybe like Grant Cardone, be like, JC Preston University, or maybe turning like the Junto into possibly like a separate university or something?
Yeah. Interesting. You should bring up the Junto, because my idea with that originally, and this is a online Facebook group that we're talking about here. Of course, it's online. It's on Facebook. But the thing is that when it comes to what social media has done to us, a lot of us have these particular beliefs that we hold very dear to, maybe ourselves and those that we engage with. And because of that, social media, specifically Facebook, has done a really good job of splitting us up into those different tribes. Now, when I started the Junto, which was kind of Benjamin Franklin originally started it as a club. It was also referred to as the Leather Apron Club back in the day. And basically what it was is that it was a place for business owners and different people from around the political spectrum to come together and actually discuss and talk about things that are affecting their business, their daily lives and things like this, and just finding solutions. And for me to try to put something like that on Facebook, especially when places are already divided into tribes as much as they are, in retrospect, I realized that it was chomping off a little bit more than I could chew at the time. So what I've done since then, starting that group, is actually work with one of my co-hosts, Harrison Painter, and getting what's called Amplify Indie off the ground here locally. And a lot of the things that we were doing in the Junto, which he was posting there regularly, and he was helping me with the show that we were doing for the group. We're doing that here on a not a larger scale, but as a larger playing field here locally than that was going, because we were going national and international first with that, and then trying to build upon that, which is something you can do, but why not start local and then work out from there? So eventually I do want to bring back the Junto and use it as what I originally had intended to kind of as a way of reaching out to people. But I really think that having a beta worked out here, which is what Amplify Indie is, proving the model and making sure it works here, and then educate. Part of the new space that we actually have, we do have an event space connected to it, so that we can have, you were talking about education, right, and helping people get better at their craft and marketing it and all that sort of stuff. So we do have that as part of our new place. We also have offices, and we also are going to have a media room as well. So, we're doing it in real life before we really try to put it back online and then create chapters from that. So glad you brought that up.
Awesome, dude. That is freaking awesome. And Amplify is on Amplify Indie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you can find Amplify Indie using that amplifyindie.com. And yeah, it's we're already starting to build those relationships with people nationally that will help us make other chapters. So, in your case, Dominique, you'd have Amplify Baltimore, so which would be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. Probably snag some folks from the Freelancers Union, too.
Yeah, well, I know your background in Toastmasters. I'm sure you have a lot of connections that you might not even remember at this point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's where the burlap sack comes in.
Yeah.
Let me stop. Oh, man. Well, with all of your wonderful ideas, one of them being the Angles of Latitude podcast, man, been doing that for a good, 2.5 years now, right?
Yeah, started actually 2 years. I think we started originally, September of 15. So no, 3 years. Yeah. Yeah. But you wouldn't know it because in the last year I've actually started publishing every other week as opposed to every week, which can take, if you edit and you're kind of a stickler for that kind of work as much as I was, you learn a lesson, and it's like, do I want to contribute more elsewhere? Do I want to put that time to other things? And of course, me talking about Amplify, that's what I do now. And so on my A weeks, quote unquote, I'll work on the show, put out content online, and then on my B weeks, opening that up to interviews like this or helping around town in different events. Like tomorrow, we're going to be accepting coats for kids at a networking event. So the Amplify teams, we're going to be at that networking event doing that. And, just different things that when I was doing all the work myself and having that Superman syndrome, it just wasn't working out. I wasn't being connected nearly to as many people that I would have liked to. And, being in your office all day and working on that sort of stuff, you just never get out there. And so, yeah, for the first 2 years, so that was up through session 104. And after that, it's been a release of every other week. One thing that I do want to note, a lot of people wonder, okay, so what's Angles of Latitude mean? Okay, well, at the time I was trying to go for something that was a little bit too creative, but basically what it is, it stands for Perceptions of Freedom. And so what the gist of the show is basically just finding, everyday people that have, by some way or some interesting path, have learned something and it has helped them with their lives, or maybe they're an entrepreneur that had an interesting way of becoming an entrepreneur, or maybe they're creative, an artist or something like that really has interesting work out there that would be very inspirational to other creatives. So, we really like engaging with people of all different kinds of backgrounds. And before long, we're actually going to be bringing on a guy that we've been talking about for a number of episodes. His name is Christian Alacio, and he's aiming to be the third ever African-American Indy 500 driver.
Oh, wow.
But he has a background that would not allow him to possibly even be in that space because, well, let's just say that he comes from a very poverty-stricken background where a lot of people in the racing world, they have that money already around them to be able to help them go through the normal process of becoming a driver. So, yeah, it's a really inspirational story, and I hope to have that out in the next couple of weeks.
Sweet. And after you check out this episode, folks, be sure to head over to that episode. Heck, if probably even put a link to that out in the show notes as well, so we can show the notes.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Make sure you visit those show notes. We don't do them just for the heck of it. Come on, right?
Oh yeah, that.
I know everybody's listening to this through Castbox or iTunes or whatever you listen at, Stitcher, but go back to his show notes. He puts them up there, I'm sure, with care, and wants you to kind of keep the conversation going, as I like to say.
That's why my show notes are so darn small and light. It's like
Yeah, well, it's true. I had Michael O'Neill, who's one of the larger podcasters in the entrepreneurship space, on, and one of the things that he talks about is the fact that he used to put a lot of time into his show notes, but anymore it's like no one comments, no one does anything, so there's very little there compared to what used to be there. Me, I still kind of believe that whole SEO thing, right? If you put enough stuff on a page, that Google will be like, oh, that's some good stuff, and actually give you a good flag. So, I think there's different ways of doing that, but that's a whole nother meta conversation we can get into.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, especially with the flags, man. It's like, it's not a penalty flag either. It's like, no, you don't use show notes. All right, 15 downloads less, offsides on show note usage or something. Have to worry about that.
Yeah, well, and I understand. I depending on the guest on a particular show, I'll either not go or go or not go to a particular show note page. But when you do go, you often find things that you didn't really think about or give time to think about, if that makes sense. Like, for example, when you asked me that question on my 3 favorite books, well, that's one of the questions that I ask on my show, or something very similar to it being, and this is my favorite one. Which three influences are your favorite? All right. So tell me who your teachers are. Tell me who the people are that helped inspire you to get where you're at. And a lot of times those people, when people answer that question, they'll be like, oh yeah, this person and this person and this person and this person wrote this and this person did this video and then this person. And so you don't know who those people are unless you actually check out the show notes and find out more. So, yep. Yeah, I think there's still a point to having show notes out there, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. Especially when you say their name in a specific way in English language. There's a lot of silent letters and whatnot.
Yes. And you're talking to someone that doesn't quite have a natural English dialect or not dialect, but what's the word I'm looking for? Accent. So you're not talking about especially when people that don't normally have a proper English accent or a dialect, that you're trying to hear them, you're like, yeah. I actually had to do that recently. I was talking to a guy, one of my recent guests, and I'm not going to name because I don't want to embarrass him, but I couldn't understand what he said in the conversation. I'm like, dude, I took a little snippet of the interview. I'm like, dude, what'd you say here? And he's like, it took him a little while to actually respond. I don't know if he was trying to figure it out himself or what, but he was like, oh yeah, here they are. Here are the links, the Amazon links. And I'm like, thank you. Appreciate that. Cause I had no idea what he was saying. So yeah, it happens. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah, man. That was probably the episode where I was probably trying to speak Russian. Let me stop.
Yeah. Well, even if you were an actual Russian, you'd be like, yep, he's doing it right. I don't know.
Yeah. Woo! Well, wonderful indeed. We're coming down the pike, and we're coming down to the question I like to ask every guest. I probably already know what your response might be, considering the way you answered the first question, but if you were 25 again, but in the current year of 2018, what advice would you give to yourself?
Button down and do all that schoolwork. No. Deal with your crap. No. I would probably at this point, I think that I still would probably have completed my education. It was getting a master's was something that I always had made as a goal of mine going through school. Both of my parents had their master's degree, so I still think that I still would have done that. But the one mistake that I didn't do, or the one mistake that I did have, was that I didn't network that well. I didn't really necessarily, coming out of engineering, I didn't really have the skills for it. And I would probably tell my 25-year-old self that you need to here are the things that you need to work on. Here's how to work on them, like confidence, like, not judging people based on their background or trying to fix people, because you don't want to fix people. Fixing people is bad unless they want you to help them fix themselves. And these are things that I really struggled with at the time because, I was just like, as someone that sees other people as having these struggles, you're like, well, if you weren't such a, you wouldn't have problem. And so I would probably go back to that and, make sure that I was using school more as a means of networking and building really long-lasting ties, as opposed to what I did use, which is what the world tells you to use it just a way to get a degree. Because when I got out of school, it took me a little bit of time to find those startups that I ended up working with. And, it was that was another kind of a turning point for me. It was just like, I did have that quarter life crisis. It's like, what do I do now? Now that I've accomplished everything, what do I do? Well, you need to start asking that while you're still in school. Not necessarily like that, but ask yourself, who can you help? How can you be of value? How can you do things that are of interest to you, but definitely of interest to other people? And that's when you start taking care of your purpose, your passion, and your purpose. And the process comes along the way. So going back to those 3 Ps.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's right. The passion and the purpose, baby. That's right.
Yep.
Getting the process in the right order.
Yeah.
Not the left order.
Which, by the way, little bit of I'm going to put that out there. I've got a new freebie on the website that I just put out. This includes the 3 Ps. It's called the Personal Mission Guide. And so the personal mission is basically what you get when you figure out what those 3 Ps are. So, yep, little freebie on the site that you can go check out. newinceptions.com/personal mission guide.
Oh, yeah, baby. People love freebies, baby. That's
Yep.
right. That's right.
Well, and that one, a little bit longer than I would like it to have been, but definitely worth the time. And then some of the books that I even mentioned today, I actually mentioned in the references at the end of the resource as well. So, yeah, it's a good one, and hope you guys get some value from it for sure.
That's right. It'll be Value City, baby. Woo! Well, alrighty. Any particular place you want folks to find you first? Mind shouting out where folks can find you, in addition to all of your other goodness, because my man's got like octopus hands out there with all the magic.
Well, besides the website that I just mentioned, you can find me on newinceptions.com. Inception spelled just like the movie, but with an S at the end. And if you haven't seen that movie, see that movie. And then you can find me on Twitter that way. You can find me on, Facebook's that way. You can find our page that way. And then on Instagram, which I'm trying to get better at using. It's still not my favorite format to talk, engage with people. You can find me at new.inceptions. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the gamut. Angles of Latitude spelled with 2 T's is the show, and you can find links to whatever you normally listen through as part of the actual page there on the website. So, yeah, you can just go to newinceptions.com/AOL podcast.
Oh man, American Online. Hell's yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
It's not what I'm talking about. I had to reclaim those letters.
That's right, no more dial-up. This is about the new inceptions, baby. We're gonna amplify Indy with the biggest amplifier ever, baby. The feedback is gonna suck if you attach it the wrong way, baby. So you want to get on the train.
That's right. That's right. And there's just so much, and I think that we've been talked about this too, but there's just so much information out there that you need to really help you pick and choose which is the best for you and most applicable to you as a creative. You really need to figure out what your core interests are. And again, that's why I created that particular resource, because it's like, if I had known that particular material going through school would have helped me tremendously, for sure. So, yep.
Woo! Well, there you have it, folks. We're going to be putting all sorts of that good stuff in the magical show notes. And the wonderful JC listed everything in case you don't like reading show notes. But you're going to want to read these show notes, man. They're going to change your life. Add quarters and Benjamins to your pockets, especially if you head over to his website and grab that wonderful freebie to add more freedom into your life.
That's right.
Any parting words before we make a run for it?
Before we make a run for it, I'd just like to tell everybody, if you're listening to Dominic's show here, going north, you're already in that right frame of mind. Just keep at it, regardless of the world tells you. I mean, I've seen people that used to be hip hop wannabes, and like they were going that path and doing everything that you wanted to do to become that person. They end up going to jail for 11 months, and now he's like out of there talking about like not Kama Sutra. Wow. Wow. He's now out of jail talking about, like meditation and just the different things that he's learned in just the self-help space. And I mean, it's just amazing. And if you're listening to this show, you're listening to my show, you're already on that path. So keep on it, and you'll get to a point where Dom and I have been. And when that's the case, just engage. Don't be afraid to engage with us. So, yep, that's my 2 cents there.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers.